All right, this is what's called, or what I call, a work rate problem. This type of problem can be very confusing for students. It's just another rate times time equals distance problem. It just doesn't feel like it. So I'll show you how it relates to that, and we'll do it using a table as well. I'll give you a couple different tools that you can use for problems like these. So Sue can paint a fence in 5 days. Joss can paint the same fence in 4 days. If they work together, how long will it take them to paint the fence? Okay, don't answer 4.5 days, because we don't average the two. They're working together, so their work gets added up. They're gonna be clearly doing the fence in less than 4 days. So here's what happens. We do have a situation of rate times time equals distance. And actually, because they're both working, it's really rate times time plus rate times time equals distance. It's just the distance isn't some number of miles or some number of feet. It's instead one fence. That's the distance. All right. So let me make a chart. I'll try to leave this up so you can see it. Let me make a chart, a table. And in this table, definitely going to do 3 rows today. Actually, 3 rows below the title. I'll put the title up here. So rate, time, distance. We know that rate times time equals distance. We know that Sue is working and Joss is working, or Jock is working. And then they're also going to work together. That's why I'm going to have 3 rows here. Now, we don't really know the rate. Maybe we do. We know that if Sue works and she paints the one fence, it will take her 5 days to paint the fence. Therefore, her rate must be 1/5, because rate times time has to equal distance. And the only way that we don't know a rate, so the only way that the rate times the time equals the distance is if the rate is 1/5, because she takes 5 days to paint one fence. Jock also paints one fence, but can do it in 4 days. So Jock's rate is 1/4 per day. In other words, Joss or Jock can paint 1/4 of the fence in a day. And Sue can paint 1/5 of the fence in a day. So those are the rates, right, per day. Now together, we don't know how many days it's going to take them. We don't know how many days. I'm using a variable for that. That's a bit of a mess. Let me use D for days. This D is for distance. This is for days. To paint one fence. But we do know that they're going to be working together. So each day, they're going to paint 1/5 plus 1/4 of the fence. Or you could think of the chart this way. Let me do another chart. Could do a chart this way. We could have Sue, Jock together. And we could have, we don't know how long they're going to work, but we know that their rates are 1/5 and 1/4. And we know that therefore Sue is going to paint 1/5 times D, and Joss is going to paint 1/4 times D, and they need to do one whole fence. So either way, you wind up with the equation 1/5 D plus 1/4 D equals 1, right? 150 being the amount of fence that Sue paints while they're working, and 140 being the amount of fence that Joss or Jock pays while they're working, and 1 being the whole fence that needs to be painted. So if we do a like denominator here, we're going to have that's going to be 20, and the 5 is going to produce a 4, and the 4 is going to produce a 5 times D equals 1. So 9/20 D equals 1, and they're going to take 29ths days, or 2 2/9 days to paint the fence. All right, so take a look back at that. We wound up getting this equation with these rates 1/5 and 1/4 because Sue can paint the whole fence in 5 days. It's presented a little differently than we're used to, but she can paint 1/5 of the fence per day. It doesn't tell you that in the word problem in those words, but you got to get down to a unit rate in order to work these problems. They really do work just like rate times time equals distance. They're just presented a very, very different way. I hope this helps with the homework. The first homework problem kind of steps you through something similar to this, but you don't have to make a table. I'm not saying you have to make a table for these work problems. You can go straight to the equation if you'd like. But the table is a nice way of organizing things because you don't know what's necessarily going to be asked. And you can always fill out what you know in the table and then figure out a variable for whatever you don't know. So the table is really a nice tool to learn as you're going into algebra next year.